Picture this. You walk into a room and there's that one guy. He's not showing off. He's not loud. He's not trying to win anyone over, but still, everyone notices him. People turn their heads. His presence cuts through the noise without saying a word. You don't know why, but you feel it. Everyone feels it. It's magnetic, but also a little unnerving. There's a quiet power about him, something raw, something unapologetically self-contained. And the question echoes in your mind. What gives this man such dangerous confidence? It's not charm. It's not money. It's not even power in the traditional sense. It's something far more elusive. He's broken the invisible chain that keeps most people quietly enslaved, the desperate need for other people's approval. Now, let's be clear. This isn't about being antisocial or cold. It's not about cutting people off or building walls. This is a shift deep in the core of your psychology. A change so complete, it doesn't just alter how you act. It changes how reality responds to you. Before we get into the 8 reasons why this kind of independence is terrifying to others, you need to see the prison most of us are still in. We wake up and grab our phones. Why? We're hungry for feedback, for someone else to say we matter. We scroll, we post, we wait. We replay in our minds who liked what, who said nothing. We laugh at jokes that aren't funny, just to fit in. We agree when we don't believe. We try to blend in to avoid rejection. But that fear, that sickening fear of not being accepted, is exactly what strips away our strength. What if I told you that this fear is the very thing that keeps us soft, anxious, controllable? That the man who doesn't care what anyone thinks has tapped into a level of power most people will never even see. Because once you stop needing approval, you become someone people can't ignore. That's where dangerous confidence begins. Reason 1. Let's talk about a guy I'll call the campus king. Everyone liked him in college. He was friendly, funny, always upbeat. Never short of a compliment. Everyone's best friend. Always surrounded. But years later, something cracked. At 35, he looked around and realized none of it was real. All that popularity, built on him shaping himself into whatever others wanted him to be. Always agreeable, always available. Never honest about what he really thought. Nietzsche called this herd morality, the way society programs us to conform, to prioritize fitting in over standing out. But that kind of acceptance is a trap, because once your self-worth is tied to approval, it can be ripped away in an instant. That's why so many people walk around with a smile but feel hollow, because they gave away their identity just to be liked. The dangerously confident man, he saw through that. He realized that chasing approval is like pouring water into a bucket full of holes. No matter how much you get, it never fills you. So, he stopped. And in that moment, his confidence became his own, no longer borrowed from others. And that shift, it rattles people. Because when someone doesn't need your validation, it forces you to look at why you still crave it. Reason 2. Now, here's the uncomfortable part. We're not as nice as we pretend to be. Carl Jung said every person has a shadow, the hidden side of our personality we've shoved away. Our anger, our ambition, our selfishness. Most people run from it. They pretend it's not there. They plaster over it with fake smiles and forced positivity. But that shadow doesn't go away. It festers, and it quietly drains your power. The dangerously confident man, he did the unthinkable. He made peace with his shadow. Not by becoming cruel or reckless, but by owning it. He faced the dark and pulled it into the light. He stopped pretending, stopped apologizing, stopped hiding. That's where real confidence is born. When you integrate both sides of yourself, the light and the dark, you become whole. And when you're whole, people can't figure you out. You're not playing a role. You're not wearing a mask. You just are. That unsettles people because they're still fighting themselves, and you're not. Reason 3. There was a woman who worked at a company for almost a decade. Everyone relied on her. She said yes to everything, stayed late, took on extra work, always helpful. And she thought that made her respected. But deep down, it was killing her. Jung called this the persona, the social mask we wear to survive. But when you over-identify with that mask, you lose the real you. She wasn't respected. She was convenient. And one day, it broke her. She realized that her whole identity had been built on being useful to others, never honest with herself. The dangerously confident person, man or woman, kills that mask. Not by becoming rude or distant, but by refusing to trade authenticity for acceptance. They say no when it's needed. They speak their truth. They don't apologize for making people uncomfortable. And ironically, the less they need approval, the more others respect them. But this comes at a cost. Some people leave. Some jobs vanish. Some relationships die. That's why most never do it. They're too afraid to lose the illusion of comfort. But the ones who make it through, they gain something rare. They gain their own voice. Reason 4. Nietzsche talked about the will to power, not dominance over others, but command over yourself. Most people wait. They wait to be chosen, to be given a chance, to be told what's possible. The dangerously confident man, he stopped waiting. He started acting. He doesn't need permission. He doesn't wait for applause. He moves, creates, speaks, acts. And when people see that, they either get inspired or intimidated, because he's writing his own story and he doesn't need your pen. This kind of inner authority flips the dynamic. People can feel it. They sense he's not trying to impress them. He's just aligned with something deeper, and that calm certainty either draws them in or pushes them out. That's the cost of becoming your own source of power. Reason 5, we live in a world that never shuts up. Everyone's talking, everyone's posting, everyone's shouting just to be noticed. But the dangerously confident man, he discovered something most never will. Silence is stronger than noise. He doesn't need to dominate every conversation. He's not trying to out-talk anyone. He speaks less, but when he does, people lean in. Because his silence isn't empty, it's full. He's not afraid of quiet because he's not afraid of himself. His stillness speaks volumes. He's learned to use silence the way others use words, as a weapon, as a boundary, as a statement. And that unsettles people, because silence leaves space for truth. It exposes the noise for what it is, fear in disguise. He's not quiet because he has nothing to say. He's quiet because he knows what matters doesn't need to be shouted. And when he speaks, every word lands. Because there's no clutter, no filler, no performance, just truth, pure and unfiltered. His calm presence is louder than most people's desperate voices. And that calmness, that controlled silence, it challenges people, because deep down, they realize how much of their talking is just them running from their own emptiness. Reason 6, ask yourself, what would you do if you weren't afraid to lose anything? Most people can't answer that, because almost everything they do is built around fear of loss of status, loss of love, loss of comfort. That fear runs their lives. But the dangerously confident man has cut the cord. Not because he's cold, but because he's detached. He wants success, but he's not defined by it. He loves people, but he doesn't cling to them. He enjoys recognition, but he doesn't need applause to feel valuable. This is stoicism in motion. He controls what he can, his actions, his mindset, his discipline, and lets go of what he can't, people's opinions, outcomes, the uncontrollable chaos of the world. That detachment doesn't make him distant. It makes him fearless. He'll take bold risks others wouldn't dream of because he's not scared to lose what doesn't define him. And that terrifies people, because it makes them confront their own attachments, the things they grip so tightly that it chokes them. This kind of detachment becomes a superpower. He negotiates better because he's willing to walk away. He loves better because he's not possessive. He leads better because he's not controlled by people-pleasing. And that scares people, because his freedom reminds them how trapped they are. Reason 7. Let's go back to the shadow. Most people are still fighting themselves. They try to silence their rage, hide their envy, bury their ambitions. And that war inside creates stress, anxiety, and constant instability. But the dangerously confident man, he's not at war anymore. He's accepted himself, every flawed, brilliant, dark, and light part of him. And from that acceptance comes peace, not the fake kind where you pretend to be okay. Real peace, the kind that can't be shaken. He's stable in a way that's rare. He doesn't get thrown off by criticism. He doesn't crumble under pressure. He doesn't flinch when others succeed. Why? Because he's grounded in who he is. He's not running from anything inside himself, and because of that, no one can use his insecurities against him. They don't exist anymore. This level of calm throws people off. They're used to being able to push buttons, get reactions, stir the pot. But when they try that with him, nothing happens. He doesn't flinch, doesn't crack. He just holds the line. And that makes people uncomfortable, because his inner peace forces them to see how loud and chaotic their own inner world really is. Reason, 8, and now the final piece, the part that pulls it all together. Real confidence. You can't see it, not directly. It's not flashy, it's not loud, it's not some exaggerated act. It just is. The dangerously confident man doesn't walk into the room trying to prove something. He already knows who he is. He doesn't chase approval because he validates himself. He doesn't need to win every debate because he's not trying to be right. He's trying to be real. And when you see him, you feel it. There's something about him that makes people stop and watch. Not because he's putting on a show, but because he's the only one not pretending. That's what real confidence looks like. It's invisible, but powerful. And in a world obsessed with appearances, that kind of authenticity is both rare and dangerous, because it holds up a mirror to everyone else's insecurities. It shines a light on every fake performance, and people don't know what to do with that. Some admire him, some fear him. Most don't understand him, but no one ignores him. But here's the hard truth you need to hear. Becoming dangerously confident isn't easy. It's not some motivational phrase you repeat to yourself in the mirror. It's a transformation. And that transformation demands sacrifice. When you stop needing approval, people will test you harder just to see if you'll fold. When you integrate your shadow, some will feel threatened by your realness. When you kill your people-pleasing habits, you'll lose people who only loved your mask. When you start trusting your own inner authority, others will challenge you. When you embrace silence, people will try to disrupt it with noise. When you detach, some will call you cold. When you find your calm, they'll try to shake it. And when you finally radiate real confidence, some will resent it because it exposes how lost they still are. This is the paradox. The more complete you become, the more incomplete you make others feel. And not everyone can handle that. You'll lose friends. You'll lose chances to blend in. You'll lose the shallow comfort of being liked by everyone. But in return, you gain yourself. You gain a self that isn't shaped by applause. You gain clarity that can't be shaken by criticism. You gain peace that doesn't need performance. You gain strength that doesn't require a crowd. You gain presence. You gain control. You gain the one thing most people spend their lives chasing, but never truly find: freedom. Not freedom in the political sense, but freedom of self. Freedom from needing to pretend. Freedom from the silent, constant pressure to be acceptable. And once you taste that, you'll realize there's no going back. You can't unsee it. You can't unknow it. You become ungovernable, not in the chaotic, rebellious way, but in the calm, resolute way of a man who simply will not betray himself anymore. And now, you have a choice. Not tomorrow, not someday. Now, are you ready? Are you ready to stop living in the shadows of other people's expectations? Are you ready to silence the noise and walk your own path? Are you ready to stop performing and start existing, fully, honestly, completely? Because this isn't a theory, it's a call. And the people who answer it, they change. Not in some surface level way, but in their core. They move differently, think differently, breathe differently. They don't chase life, they own it. So take that first step right now. Stop checking your phone for validation. Stop watering dead relationships just to be liked. Say no when you mean no. Speak when it matters. Walk away when you need to. Stand still when the world is screaming. Be okay being misunderstood. Be okay being disliked. Be okay being alone. Because the version of you that waits to be accepted will never be free. But the version that walks away from needing anything, that's the version the world respects. So, if you're still here, still listening, and if this struck something deep inside you, don't ignore it. That feeling in your gut is your true self waking up. Don't lull it back to sleep. Comment, "I'm ready," if this spoke to you. Share this with someone who's still pretending. And if you want more content that pushes you to rise above the noise and become dangerously real, subscribe. Because the world doesn't need more polished, agreeable, performative clones. The world needs more men and women who are complete, solid, unshakable. The world needs more dangerously confident people. The only question is, will you be one of them?